Thank you. Today is Monday, July 26th, 2021, and the school committee will go into executive session. We'll start regular session at 5:30 with the Pledge of Allegiance. No executive session. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah, sorry. We'll start with school committee member introductions. Ms. Paquette.
Karen Paquette, Assistant Superintendent.
Bruce Damon, Ward 1.
Janet Bowden, Ward 2. Here, would you like to use mine?
Vernon Majoris Collins, Ward 3.
Jake Lang, the superintendent.
Megan Parks at large.
Tanya Whitlow, Ward 4.
Linnea Hawkins, Ward 5.
Ron Potvin, Ward 6.
Paul Vopalant, Ward 7.
Alicia Ray, City Council Representative.
Thank you.
Just that mic did that.
Hello? Is that going through? All right. There we go.
Oh, there was fuzzy there. Move Bruce's in between the two of them. That way if Karen needs to talk, they have both. Yeah, we could do that too. Janet, we're good? Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Agenda item number 3 is to receive and approve the nomination of assistant principal for Lewiston High School. Superintendent Langlis will present.
Well, I guess I would start with a quick introduction, and I don't know if Principal Putnam wants to share anything at the podium or not, but we have Assistant Principal for Lewiston High School nomination, Todd Cifelli, who, Todd, come on up to the podium there. I'll chime in a bit here, just because I'm familiar with Todd, who's been considered, I believe, to be a leader at Lewiston High School in all aspects. He comes from a family of educators. He's been involved with extracurriculars, helping in the facilitation of things, even from the administrative level with athletics as a part-time gig. About a year ago, became the Dean of Students at Lewiston High School, and really showed his true colors in the efforts and the lengths that he's willing to go with social emotional learning, knocking on doors, going to kids' houses, getting them engaged, bridging the gaps. For that and so many other reasons, including his talents with teaching and learning, Todd rose to the top of a pretty talented pool of people. So we're honored to have him here tonight and put him before you for nomination for assistant principal at Lewiston High School.
I would move we accept the nomination.
Second.
Would you like to speak before or after we vote on you?
I'll speak before. I was practicing with the mic here. I'm humbled and honored to be here. This is a great school system. I thank you guys on the school board. I'm a former civics and government teacher. Mr. Beauplant can vouch for that. Local government's where it starts. You have a really tough job. I was thinking when I was getting ready to come over here how this might be the most difficult time to be on the school board between all the things that are happening in social media. So I thank you for your service. I'm excited if I get this opportunity. We got a lot of work to do. We got to get kids connected back to school. And I think that's a strength of mine. I think I have a strength too of having credibility with the staff. I'm excited to work with Mr. Putnam. I love his vision that he has for the school, and I think I'm fit on the administrative team. So I'm excited. Got a lot of work to do. Hit the ground running, but I hope you take on my nomination.
Thank you. Any discussion among the board? Mr. Majerus Collins?
Just say that I'm excited to support your nomination. I think that it's great that we have somebody who already is coming in with a familiarity with what we're trying to do at Lewiston High School. And from what the superintendent said and what I've reviewed in the personnel file, it seems like you're the perfect candidate for this. So I'm very excited.
Mr. Beauplant?
Excuse me, I can certainly verify that having had Mrs. Cifelli as a student as well, what an excellent teacher, and he was excellent student, excellent baseball coach. We were very sad to lose him at Edward Little. It's been a pleasure being on the sidelines, seeing him work up the ladder. I'm certainly support Mr. Majerus Collins' assertion that it's nice to have someone in-house that knows the program. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but congratulations.
Bruce, Mr. Damon?
Just a clarification for me. This is just a replacement from before. We had lost an assistant principal, and so this is just a replacement. This is not a new position.
Correct. This is a replacement for Mark Sawyer, who took a position in Gorham, actually in their administrative team.
Where are our votes starting tonight? 3? Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I just wanted to say congratulations as a parent of a high schooler. I've heard your name before and I've heard great things. So you're welcome.
And I think all votes start with Ward 3 tonight. Is that correct? Yes, okay. Ward 3,
Yes.
4,
Yes.
5,
Yes.
6,
Yes.
7,
Yes.
City Council?
Yes.
Yes, Ward 1,
Yes.
Ward 2.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Motion passes 9-0. We sometimes tease candidates in the administrative team that we're going to ask really hard, like baseball trivia-like questions. at the meeting just to get them a little nervous, see how they do under pressure. But the problem with Todd is that he probably knows all of the answers because of his memory. So we didn't go there tonight.
Do you want to introduce? Yep, okay.
So before we jump into the consent agenda, I want to make note of a couple positions and then potentially recognize them after if the committee will entertain that thought. We have the Executive Director of Operations nomination before us this evening. And Bill Grant, who is currently the Adult Education Director, who is joining us this evening over on the side, is that nomination. And would like to talk more about him or answer any questions you may have. But Bill is a trusted member of what I think is leadership in not just Lewiston, but in our community and region as a whole. His work with adult education and across different platforms for collaboration at the high school level, his input is valued, I think, at all levels on our administrative team. One of the things I like about Bill is he doesn't always agree with me, and he's willing to tell me that. I think that adds value to the team. But he also has a background in accounting and numbers and business. And so bringing him online to help the direction of our district as a whole, to be a key input for high level decisions, but also to watch the books and make sure we're planning ahead and having our ducks in a row. I think is a real exciting opportunity. So Director Grant, I don't know if you want to come up to say anything prior to.
All right. Just am really looking forward to this opportunity. There's a little bit of a bittersweetness here because I've been in adult ed for such a long time, really overseeing the two programs in the Twin Cities. But now coming to this opportunity, and if there's one thing I've learned being out in the community in adult education is how important the school system is to everything we do in the community. And if we don't have a smooth running machine, opportunities get left on the table. So this position, as I was looking at it, really kind of spoke to me, especially living through COVID, that I think this is the next professional opportunity that I would like to go to, and working in the operations field and ensuring that our schools run smoothly so that our students can have the most opportunities that our cities offer. So thank you.
Bill has some unique talents beyond the business piece. He has some familiarity with construction from prior work experience, will help with facilities related things. He's got a micro farm at his house. So if we ever grow local, we could tap as a resource for that. But again, a trusted individual, and we look forward to working together. And then next up, I'll say just a couple words, but maybe Karen could chime in some too. But Sue Williams, who has been an integral part of our leadership team already. One of the things that I did early on, which wasn't popular with everyone, was we went to a management team model. So we have all of our principals and directors in one group that meets with Karen and I. And there were not other people on that group except for one person who wasn't a principal or director, and it was Sue Williams. We needed Sue at the table. She thinks things through. She's a workhorse. She gets things done. And her passion is about the kids and teaching and learning. And she's got some real expertise around that. And Karen, I'll give you a chance to maybe share a little more about Sue.
How much time do you have? No, just kidding. So I echo everything that Jake has said. I can tell you that over the last 2 years, I would not still be standing upright if I had not had Sue Williams to help me. She has done things that are not part of her job responsibilities currently, just because she saw that I needed help and the rest of my team needed help. And so she stepped up to do those things. And I look forward to her being an even bigger part of my team and helping lead in some different ways to allow for us to move forward.
So I don't know if you want to come up and share anything. And while Sue's on her way, I will make note that this position is by way of the conversation we had recently when we looked at the funding from the state shifting, but also this is that position that Karen held with some slight modifications that we never filled when Karen moved to the assistant superintendent.
the little guy with the little, okay. So one of the things that I often said, and I just said it to a principal today, is that it's not about the title, it's about the work we do every day. The title's not important. And one of the things that I love about working in Lewiston is the team that we have at central office, right through building leadership on down. And I've really enjoyed collaborating. I'm here to serve and have been, and I'm really excited for this opportunity to really help Karen, help Jake, Bill, and all of our building leaders who are getting it done at the building level, to utilize our resources that you have helped us put forward in our instructional specialists and other positions at the curriculum level, to really move some of these pieces forward that we've been working on for a long time, and have a real role in collaborating with everyone to get it done. So.
Yes.
So these are some excellent nominations. I've watched both of these folks for the last 4 years, and I was shocked when I saw your name, but I'm super excited for it. I was not shocked about Sue because she's a strong leader. So I'm really excited for both of them. So great.
Ms. Ray?
I would echo those sentiments, of course, for Bill and Sue, who have very luckily had the chance to work closely with, as well as Todd. And even down the line, the new assistant ELL director, positions in HR, we are really moving people into positions of strength, it looks like, with this consent agenda that we're about to adopt. And so I really want to commend the leadership, both Karen and Jake, for what they've done to empower all of the administrative team to ready folks for these positions, because it feels like the right time for the right people.
And just real quickly, the assistant HR director position, she wasn't available tonight. Otherwise, she would have been here, but we are very excited to work with Fatuma, and her skill set is really, really phenomenal.
Any other, sorry, Mr. Majerus-Collins?
I echo everybody else's comments. Superintendent and the whole hiring team is clearly knocking it out of the park here. But I just think it's also great that with Sue's nomination and apparent confirmation, the school committee is ultimately going to accomplish what Member Potvin set out to do very early on in our term, which is to move to a structure that actually has a real assistant superintendent with empowered staff at the next rung down. And I think that this is a good change for Lewiston Public Schools, and we have the right people to do the job. So I think that's great.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Ward 3. Oh, sorry, never mind. Hang on. The consent agenda. We will move on to agenda item number 4, which is the consent agenda. Are there any items that members want removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, all of the nominations are approved and the consent agenda is adopted. Agenda item number 5 is public input. Members of the public may address the school committee for up to 3 minutes on non-agenda items now and on agenda items later. Comments that pertain to staff, personal matters, or a student issue should be directed to the superintendent or the appropriate staff member of Lewiston Public Schools. Public comments shall be directed to the school committee and be brief, not repetitive, and related to the matter at hand. Before starting, please state your name, address, and/or affiliation with Lewiston Public Schools. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak?
Okay. So my name is Jamie. I have 2 sons that one just graduated from high school this past year, and then one that's going to be a senior this year. I'm absolutely not a public speaking person. I'm absolutely scared crapless to be up here right now, but I got stuff I need to take care of. What is everybody's thoughts on the critical race theory?
So public comment isn't like a question and answer session. If you have stuff to speak about, you can speak on it, but we don't generally go back and forth with committee members and the public at public comment.
So when would that question be answered?
You can email every school committee member individually and solicit input and
Okay.
conversation that way.
All right, so hold on. Why can't it be addressed here at the school board meeting?
You can talk to us about it.
You can talk to us. So public comment is about the public giving us information or sharing information with us. It's not a back and forth. It's not the way it's formatted.
Is there something at the end of this that we could talk about versus emailing 16 people or?
Go ahead, Jake.
Because I have called on it. I've spoke with the guidance counselors this year numerous times about this. I've experienced the critical race theory and personal public opinion of school teachers during Zoom meetings. So I think this would be the appropriate time to address the situation. Am I right or am I wrong?
So actually, so
Am I wrong?
Just as a,
Okay.
No, you're okay.
as a form of function, this may be helpful. You
Not to
can,
cut you off, but he said no, yes. Am I right or am I wrong asking this?
I'm not saying right or wrong, but he's out of line for it to be speaking to you that way right now. So I'm just saying, hold on a minute, let Jake speak and we'll move forward from there.
Okay, perfect. I'm not used to this and I apologize.
okay.
This is my first meeting and I'm absolutely embarrassed it's my first meeting. Because I should have been attending these all through my kids' years, to be honest with you.
no, I think you're fine. I think that your topic is something that you should bring up and share, just as part of a form and function, and I'm okay with other people correcting me. The school committee operates as a body, and so sometimes different opinions can be shared, but we don't do Q&A individually because it turns into each person's opinion, and the decision-making is as a body. That's why they vote on things. So I know that can get muddy, but in the public comment section of the committee, it's not a back and forth question for each person.
Okay, so
But
if I
members of
email
the
you,
committee may chime in.
I'm gonna ask the same questions and expect you to get me the email back, right? So it's kind of the same thing, right?
That would be the appropriate way to do it. Yes.
Okay, so that's the appropriate way.
Yes.
Okay.
Did you have any information you wanted to share with us today, or you just wanted to ask the question?
I want to ask questions. I'm
Okay.
worried about school starting. I'm worried about the vaccines, the masks, the this, the that.
Yeah, so sending an email would probably be the best way to get that information from all of the individual members.
So what's the purpose of the school board meeting? Other than you talk about agenda,
So we follow the
Chair
agenda,
Parks?
we cover specific items that are predetermined. You want to go ahead as the parliamentarian?
can I just clarify something real quick? I'm not asking to be confrontational. I'm asking because I really don't know.
Okay, sorry. So the purpose of the school committee business meeting, which is what this is to conduct the business of the school committee, which is the stuff that's on the agenda, things that have already been put forward for the business of tonight. And so that's everything that's on there. We usually, this is a very short meeting tonight because
Okay.
we're just addressing the personnel agenda, and then we're doing a workshop on the new material from Jenny, I think. What might be most helpful is at the August 2nd meeting where we have our full agenda, there will be an opportunity for future agenda items, and members of this body can suggest those. And so your emails to us as a member of the public and that discourse that happens there could inform what folks from this body elect to put on the agenda for future discussion and meetings. The reason the back and forth comment is because things get really muddy, as the superintendent said, sometimes when there's 9 folks who are voting on issues and have opinions on that, but there's no direct question or policy or procedure being followed with public comment. And so we invite the public's input during our business meetings, but we do not respond to it individually. If you go back and watch some of the meetings, you'll see Chair Parks often just says, thank you, even if people ask questions, which is really unsatisfying. But the purpose of the meeting is to conduct our body's business, but it could come forward from emails that you might send.
Member Potvin?
Yeah, I mean, from the public input perspective, as you come to the podium, for me particular, I'm interested in hearing what you have to say in terms of your feelings on these items that you just talked about. And at this moment, that's your opportunity to actually say to us as a group how you feel about that, and also to the public, since this is going out. And I, for one, am interested to hear what you have to say on these particular issues. So I would think that
All
I
right.
would like to see that happen.
So just start wherever I want to start with. Should we
Yeah,
start?
and it's generally, we keep it at 3 minutes. beyond 3 minutes, but there's been a lot of discussion that wasn't her speaking. She actually hasn't spoken at all yet.
I'm asking questions. So I'll take 3 minutes. So, well, okay. So with the masks thing, for one, I don't know if people are fully aware of that the masks actually cause more problems than not with health issues. Let's see. They are more at risk for bacterial pneumonia. They increase incidence of headaches and negatively affect the work performance. Medical masks adversely affect respiratory physiology and function. Medical masks lower oxygen levels in blood and raise carbon dioxide levels in the blood. Medical mask trap exhaled viral and other pathogens in the mouth and the mask interspace. Increase the severity of the disease. The COVID-19, whatever you people want to refer to, or anybody wants to refer to, actually, when you wear a mask, it actually, your blood levels decline with that. Cloth masks actually may increase the risk of contracting COVID-19. Face masks can also give a false sense of security. The kids are covered up. They don't see people talking to you. You don't see the interaction I've seen in the last 16 months with people wearing masks, even at the grocery store, speaking for myself, is absolutely insane. You go to the store, you want to say hi to somebody, nobody even acknowledges because you have a mask on. People walk by, and kids need to interact with their children, with their peers. They need to just pay attention to people's facial expressions, their movements, their mouth, and just listening to what people are saying, and that is the problem. Let's see, so that's with the face masks. Let's see, critical race theory. I don't know if you guys are in the school, I would assume, and I would hope that you guys would be aware of the critical race theory. I would assume that the teachers here would know that if I know what you and whoever else your political affiliation is with, you're not doing your job as a teacher to keep your public opinion, your personal opinion, out of the reach of my children, because it is not anybody's job in the school to teach us who we should vote for the president or vice versa or not. Your job is to teach science. Your job is to teach math, not tell my child the critical race theory of white people are bad, or this is bad, and this is what we need to do. Now, the reason why I asked about the critical race theory was because and it struck my Sawyer. That name was brought up tonight, Mark Sawyer. He's back in superintendent for Gorham, I believe is what you guys said this evening. I know, that's why I'm talking out loud right now. So then I did hear, I acknowledge that, thank you. But down in Cumberland County right now, MSD 61 or 51, I might be wrong on that. It's one of the two. 25 schools are now acknowledging the critical race theory of it's not my idea, whiteness is the devil. We're all equal people. We are all the same. I have an issue with this, and I have an issue with this being taught in our schools. Either we're on board or we're not. That's what I need to address here right now. And this is the questions that I need to know, not only for myself, my child, and whatever else. The Zoom meetings, when we're in Zoom meetings, and the teacher is literally expressing out loud false information, non-facts about what is actually happening. I will give names. I have no problem giving names. I've already called these people out. I've already talked to my time's up.
Yes, I was gonna let you finish your sentence, but yes.
I actually will finish what I'm saying, because technically I pay you people's salaries. So I'm going to speak for like 2 more seconds. 2 more seconds I would like to take. So I would like August 2nd.
Kiernan.
I'm the
It's
only
at the chair's
parent.
discretion. It's 3 minutes, or at the chair's discretion, and at the chair's discretion, I'm going to let her finish her statement, like we've done for many of the people that have come to speak on your behalf.
I
In
appreciate
Robert's rules,
that.
there is.
And I'm not sure what your name is, but shame on you. I'm the only parent here. I don't mean to take up everybody's Monday afternoon, and I do apologize. This is my only first meeting that I've ever attended. Next time I will know the rules, and next time I will know better. Saying that, I will stop what I'm saying, and I will come back August 2nd.
August, yes.
Thank you.
And you can find all of our email addresses on the Lewiston Public Schools website.
I have most of them.
Okay.
And I have emailed, I have called. I'm not getting my questions answered. I've been passed back. Actually, I spoke with some of the superintendent people last week. about questions, and I keep getting circle back, circle back. This is why I'm here this evening.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you for your time. Agenda item number 6 is to receive an update on the ESEA federal programs. Hang on. Here.
Thank you. Sorry for that delay. Nice to see everyone. My name is Jenny Derrigan. I am the ESEA Federal Programs Coordinator for Lewiston Public Schools. And so tonight I'm here to share out budget information and planning information for the FY22 federal application and the processes that we take to do that work. The goals are to share the district and the school-wide CNAs or comprehensive needs assessments. Those are documents that were shared in the school committee packet for tonight's meeting. I will go into a little bit more detail about those items. Also to share the goals and the budget for the FY22 federal application prior to submission. Lewiston Public Schools prepares our application for submission every year for August 1st. So this is timely that in July we meet and we just discuss the work of the teams in Lewiston. And lastly, to offer opportunity for public comment on the FY22 application. And part of our requirement for that is to consider comment prior to submission. ESEA, it truly is an umbrella term. All federal programs fall under this umbrella for elementary and secondary education. And so tonight we're talking about Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV, and they're often referred to as the ESEA titles or for our ESEA grants. We apply for Title I, II, III, and IV every year. These funds have been with us for a long time. They're with us now. They'll be with us when COVID ends and continuing to support our programs. These are really critical and foundational funds that we plan for, apply for, and use. So this upcoming year for Title I, the Lewiston allocation is over $3 million. Title II, $394,000. Title III, $232,000, and Title IV, over $300,000. So we are receiving these allocations. Well, we do receive an allocation per census data for Title I and per formulas for the other 3 titles. We are currently the largest receiver in the state of Maine. And so tonight I wanted to show you these numbers. I wanted to talk about the process that we use to determine how we use our funds and how we make decisions on that spending. So to help our teams, and when I talk about teams for Lewiston, we have stakeholder teams at each of our Title I school buildings, and we have a stakeholder team for our district as a whole that work on our needs assessments and work as a group and collaborate to do this work that we're charged with. So in the CNAs that you have in your packet, you may notice that it's the second page or third page. Each school-wide plan and the district plan has a list of stakeholders. We hope and advocate and seek out stakeholders for all of these teams. We want parents at the table, community members at the table, school committee members at the table, teachers, other support staff in our schools, administration, and so on. We really want those teams to be really well represented to do this work. The biggest part of the work is in the CNA. So I'm just going to kind of move to this next one and then go back to that previous slide. But the CNA is the biggest part of this work. The comprehensive needs assessment truly is the review of data, the data analysis process work, reflection, description of program, conversation, again, dialogue, and conversation around how are our kids doing, what is the data showing us, and how are we going to respond to it using our federal dollars. So we respond to the needs of our students using many different funds, but our federal dollars have to absolutely be aligned to the areas of concern that we identify when we walk through the data process as teams. I know I keep saying team, but that's a hugely important piece of all of this work. So going back to the prior slide, the district CNAs, the school-wide CNAs, and the federal application, they all work together and are a piece of the puzzle here. The CNA work happens over an entire school year. So we just closed the 2020-2021 school year, and our CNAs are basically finalized and we close them. Our review, what we call our review, is completed. Those plans are also posted on the website, and they're for our community to look at and to explore. And what you'll see in the CNAs is that the determinations made by the team are going to drive the use of the funds. So if our school or our districts decide that we're looking to improve student outcome in a certain area, and of course, when I talk about that, we're talking about academic outcomes, social emotional outcomes, family engagement outcomes. We're looking to increase all of those things very intentionally. And so we decide how are we going to do that. So the work of the CNAs happen year long. Again, several meetings are held throughout the year to conduct that work, to do that analysis, to have those conversations, and to collect the data. Every year we collect, you'll notice in the CNAs that we have data back from 2014-15 up until our last completed school year for our working teams, which would have been 19-20. So we have about 5 years of data where we're able to look at trends and have good conversation around that. Once those teams have made financial decisions and goal decisions, we then transfer that work into the federal application, which is our official request to the state for money. So I guess the reason I'm explaining that process is so that we can understand tonight how they fold together. Here is a 5-year glance of funds for Lewiston. When I had said earlier that the funds have been with us forever and now and beyond, this is just an idea of what our funding has looked like over the last 5 years. Title I being our largest funding stream. we typically see an increase in funds each year, even if it's a small increase, we typically see that. So, and since we're a big district in the state of Maine, that amount is actually determined by census. So we get a number from the state. Now, this year in particular, we went up just about $8,000, which is not significant for Title I. We always want it to be, we want it to be more than that. So we're looking at our budgets and doing the appropriate planning for that. But the state of Maine, the state of Maine poverty level, although it remained the same, other states beat out Maine. And so Maine's allocation was less than we had anticipated, or the state of Maine had anticipated. And then that just trickles down into districts. I see Kieran has a question.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this, and the most striking change obviously is the Title IV, 1718 to 1819. Could you tell us what happened with that?
Yes. So the state changed the formula. It used to be, I can't even remember how they were doing it. Okay. They had an entire state allocation and they split it up between districts evenly. So whether you were a big or a small, you received the same amount. That's how that funding source started. And then they quickly realized that that's really not serving kids equitably. And they changed the formula to match the Title I formula. So it's basically a per pupil economically disadvantaged driven number. So we had to really react to Title IV. And that year was that year, I remember that year here, we went from having, no plans, really, small plans for the use of Title IV to having to develop and plan out. Title IV is our funding stream that we currently use to support our STEM programs. It's an enrichment funding stream. Our STEM programs, our SEL, a lot of our SEL work, our guidance supervision project, and other pieces that are enriching and supporting. It's not the traditional academic support, but more of it can be used for gifted and talented and many, many things. It's written really broad, so we have a lot of flexibility in Title IV.
Member Beaumont.
Also, there seems to be a spike of about $150,000 from 2019-20 to 2021. Was that based on anticipated enrollment or?
Are you looking at Title III?
I'm looking at the cumulative effect of all 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Whoops, I'm sorry.
2019-20 to 2020-21. I believe, if I'm doing the math, that of course everything increased, but it increased 150,000. I'm trying to get a handle on that, so it'll explain the loss of 17,000 or so on for 21-22.
So Title I, I'm seeing increased from these 2 school years. Title II increased. Title III increased. Title III is our actual per student count formula to determine those funds. And Title IV increased.
And why did 1, 2, and 4 increase somewhat significantly?
Okay. Again, we don't have control necessarily over the total allocation amounts that we receive. It depends on the national funding, and then goes to the state funding, and then it will trickle down to the district amounts. I would need to look a little further into the national percentages that year or the state percentages those years to dig deeper.
Jenny, I just shut you off. I'm sorry. I can explain a little bit. 1920. So all of these years, we really, even though we give free lunch to all of our students, we still need to collect this information from our students. And oftentimes that's difficult because it's personal information that we're asking families to do. There's also information about ELL and special ed and all of those things that play into it. In 2019-20, I do believe there was a slight glitch in our enrollment and the number of students who were listed as free and reduced lunch. And so there was a correction on the state's part to some degree the following year. I don't believe we were the only district that experienced that. So there was our normal increase, if you will, of a few $1,000s plus a little bit more because there was a correction. And Title I would have been, Title I would really have been the place where we would have hit that. So we had a higher number in 18-19. We saw that dip because of the numbers, and then there was a correction. There was a correction there as well.
Yes, and to follow up on that, I believe that was through Power School and through how the state of Maine counts Lewiston enrollment. Thank you for.
If I could just add a little bit more color to our ED 279, which is the state funding formula for local allocation, was also incorrect that year because of the Power School glitch. So it continues even into the general fund too.
I think that was either $214,000 or $244,000 that year, that correction.
So thank you for asking that question and us being able to find the information for you.
Thank you. I have a couple questions. I don't know if I should wait till you're finished or if
I'm fine to take a question as they come. It's fine with me.
So my first question is, of those funds between all four titles, are you allowed to reallocate the funds, or are we essentially allowed to reallocate some of the funds to different spots?
Well, so the teams that make the determinations are allowed to decide, the next step. So if you're asking about if we had remaining amounts of money, like if some money went unspent and we carried it over into the following year, we would continue and we would be required to actually spend that money on the approved projects from the prior year. So we can continue spending it. We ask for permission from the state to continue spending it, but it would still need to be on the projects outlined in that year's application.
Okay.
Every year when we receive a new application and we develop a new allocation and we develop and plan out our new application, that's our opportunity to write in, new projects. I mean, a lot of the projects, when I get down to show exactly how we're spending our funds for each funding source, I'll do that next. You will a lot of people in this room will recognize the projects as we've been doing similar projects for years. And again, not all, but some are very familiar. And then again, those teams would make decisions about shifting or pivoting. Like if they're looking at their data and they're not seeing student outcome or seeing the needle move, then we would revisit, okay, what program are we using to get to where we want to go? And is it working?
Yeah,
that's definitely part of that work.
So have we ever had an audit from the state on these funds?
Yes.
Recently?
We had more of a state audit's been a few years, but more recently we did our internal audit on Title I.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that kind of follows to my last question. I noticed that in Lewiston Public Schools, we are really coach heavy. We've had a lot of coaching positions. It seems like since my kids have been in school, this is a new thing. And I'm noticing that we are funding coaches through Title I funds. And I've always kind of been under the impression that Title I funds should be going directly to our kids, not necessarily a paid position like that. These were classroom teachers that have come out of the classroom and are now coaching. So I just wondered if that's kind of an ethical way to be using this money. I have to ask because it's something that's always kind of bothered me ever since I got word of it. So thanks.
I'll start with the definition of school-wide. So all of our Title I schools, which are all of our K-8 schools, our high school is the only school in our district that's not a Title I school-wide school. They run school-wide programming, which is different than targeted school-wide. And school-wide programming has been in place in Lewiston for many years. What that means is that ultimately we take the funds from all the different funding sources we have available, and we can use them to upgrade the entire school programming, the entire school system to serve all kids. And that's very key, is that it's not only a targeted amount of students and they can only work with a small amount of teachers. It's all students, it's all teachers. And so the funds, as long as we ensure, and this is like a methodology piece to the funding work, is as long as we ensure not to decrease our local funding, then we are allowed to use our title funding across the board to serve kids in all ways: guidance counselor, SEL work, EL services, all ways. So Title I, because we offer school-wide and we run school-wide authority, we have huge flexibility in Lewiston for Title I. Yeah, you'll see, and sorry, I know Kieran's been. Okay, I was just going to go on to some of the lists of what we're spending. But
How is it that our K-8 schools, our Title I schools, and the high school isn't? How does that work?
So that determination has been made for years to direct our additional federal dollars for early intervention, truly early intervention services. What you'll see in the slides to come is that most of our positions that we are supporting, well, all of the positions K-8 that or school-wide positions we're supporting, yes, it's coaches. Yes, it's also RTI interventionists, reading recovery interventionists, and they only serve K-1 or K-2 students. And other specific interventionists, they differ at each building, but the focus is there. In each school level CNA, you'll be able to open that up and get an idea of the individual needs of the school. That would be a place to check out for some further information, and you're always welcome to contact the building principals about that information as well. Did I answer that? Oh, I feel like I had a second thought there.
Not exactly. I guess what I'm trying to understand is, and I could totally be wrong. My understanding is that Title I schools are designated based on the percentage of students who are living in poverty who are attending the school. Is that more or less accurate?
Our allocation for Lewiston is derived by that formula, but the district has the decision-making ability to decide which schools will apply for title funding. So we don't get money every year. We have to apply with very specific research-based projects and get approval before we can even start using that money.
So to clarify, it's not that the high school wouldn't qualify. It's that we make a decision that our applications are targeted at K-8.
That is correct.
And we're working with a set pool of money regardless of how many schools applied.
That is correct.
So in theory, the district could say our only school is going to be Connors, and then we could $3 million for Connors. Or you could say every school is going to apply, or you could say K-8 is going to apply and the high school isn't. So that's how this works?
Yes. And the application process, when we initially applied for school-wide, it is the completion of an initial school-wide plan. That first initial year, the work is done with a team, a stakeholder team, and then submitted to the state for approval of school-wide authority. So there's definitely a process to that work also that we did with our K-8 schools.
Just real quickly, part of that research, it's been a couple of years since I was sitting in that meeting at the middle school level before I went to the high school. We used to look at wise ways documents and research best practices in our coach with the state, who also helped approve these items from the team. And they would kind of say yay or nay. But one of the top things that they requested that we have in place was instructional coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Is that still the research that's out there? Yeah.
It is, Jake. Yep. So the models and the decisions, not only do we have to have approval for those projects, but they have to be they have to meet the threshold for evidence for ESSA, which is a site you can check out that lists every intervention possible. And many don't meet the threshold to use federal dollars to use, meaning they haven't proven their best practice enough yet. Maybe they haven't been around long enough, or maybe the data shows that they're not getting the outcomes that they would want to use federal dollars to support. But coaching is certainly a very highly recommended model, and our building principals are strong advocates for coaching. And a lot of my understanding, a lot of the comments I've heard about that is really to be supporting our teachers and through professional development and of course those coaching pieces.
So then it would be fair to say that our instructional coaches, far from being any sort of drag or waste of anything, are in fact an integral part of ensuring that the teachers that we have are teaching up to their potential, that they're getting better, that they feel supported, and that the evidence bears this out, that this is a really helpful and powerful way to improve student learning.
Yeah, and that's one reason the coaches are still on those budgets, because the building principals have data from coaching cycles. Again, it's data-driven decisions from coaching cycles and experiences of their teachers and the outcomes of students. So it comes well equipped with those pieces. Yeah.
Member Potvin.
I just want to take a step back really quickly to the financing piece. You mentioned the whole pot of all the money in the pot is divided. I think you mentioned according to how the students are categorized and where they fall as far as poverty level, et cetera, so on.
So there are some specifics around Title I that are just for Title I. So I'll move to this slide and talk about that a little bit because I think it will answer your question. The actual total amount of Title I is driven by census, but then, and when Lewiston receives that number, we then plan for district level Title I projects, which are listed here. And then following the budget work and the project narrative for those projects, we then, every dollar then gets pushed out to school-wide budgets. And so right directly to our schools. Yeah. We have to complete what's called a rank and distribution chart to determine how much money each of our schools receive. And that is directly aligned with the economically disadvantaged percentage of that building. Okay. So our most neediest school that's defined by that economically disadvantaged percentage formula this upcoming year is Connors Elementary. And that's a change. Last year it was Montello. So the actual amount of funds, so that just using that as an example, the amount of funds shifts a little bit for those schools because now one's rising to seat number one. And that happens throughout all of our Title I schools. And the tricky part of this is that, like Karen was speaking to, we have free breakfast and free lunch in Lewiston Public Schools. So we don't collect a free and reduced lunch form, but we do collect an economically disadvantaged form, and that form drives those numbers. Many of our schools have put in a practice around reaching out to families individually at the beginning of the year to support the collection of those forms in an effort to ensure that their school receives the funding that matches the student need of that population.
So my question was more about the total figure, total allotment. Mm-hmm. And looking in your application, since it is student driven with numbers, mm-hmm. Your application shows last year 5,432 students. This year's application shows 5,174 students, a significant drop. Is it reasonable to expect that the funding will also drop in proportion to the census?
So that's a great question. I know the state is working right now to ensure that doesn't happen to school districts in Maine. And so they're using year prior numbers. So enrollment in schools across the state dipped due to COVID. And so, you know, the state wants to respond appropriately to that as well. So more information to come on that. But that is a great question, and the state is doing everything they can to look to see what year they should capture to determine funding for federal funding for schools, and I'm sure they're doing that with the ED numbers as well.
So the state's actually gone about this in two different ways. One is, just as Jenny said, the other is they've come up with a ratio for middle level students that, in my opinion, inflate the percentages that cities and towns get. And they're doing that because the real areas that they've seen a drop off in enrollments have been high school and very early elementary for people who just held their kids home and they're going to start them later instead of doing pre-K or K. So that was one way they did it with the ED 279, but that was a moving target for a while. We have enrollment concerns. Of course, we want to continue to monitor that. We have our outreach program that's actually gone out and about and found kids that we have on lists that didn't engage. So that's a step in the right direction. But I know that the enrollment number question is big on a lot of superintendents' minds because we've lost about 300 in that 1 year swing. There are other districts that are a third of our size that have lost more. And so it's a big number, but from a state perspective, it's a bigger conversation.
And based on what you said earlier, it seemed like we had lost out on some money because of a power school issue on our part. Do we feel totally confident that we're putting forward everything we have to do to get the most money we can get?
Yeah, so I think there was some ownership on our part there as well as the state as well in terms of how they were calculating some things. And definitely, as I said, the collection of some of that information and how it was collected versus how it should have been collected. But absolutely, so Darrell Spence, who is no longer with us, but when he was with us during that time, I can remember the day he discovered it and was in hysterical panic. Did everything to work with the state to sort of correct that. And so we have to verify enrollments twice a year, I believe, with the state. And then there's some additional checkpoints along the way. And I can say we double and triple check these days.
A summary of how we're spending our funds are available, and it was about a 3-page summary that was also included. So I'll just move right along here. But Title I, again, based on poverty percentage, we have district projects, we have school-wide projects. Each school-wide has their own individual plan. We do see some common threads on how we spend money for title. But they do, our building principals and their teams have choice over Title I money. And they use it to fill gaps sometimes. That's definitely a real use. Title II, again, this is in that 1-pager for how we're spending our funds for this upcoming year. We have done class size reduction teachers for many years now. We're continuing that project on Title II. It's our PD funding stream. We do tons of PD on this, school level PD, district level PD, for support staff, teachers, building administration. What you'll notice that I didn't point out on Title I, but it's there, we are required to do and serve our non-public schools that are in Lewiston with title funds. So I work closely with the non-publics in Lewiston that choose to participate in federal titles, and they have to meet the same requirements we do. We do project and budget planning and approvals and pieces like that. But currently we have, Title I is just our homeless and our parent required projects, but Title II and Title IV have our non-public school projects. They can choose to participate or they can choose to pass. And so that's just an annual decision for our non-publics. And we currently are working with St. Dom's and Margaret Murphy. Title III, we are currently supporting and planning to support this upcoming year an ELL interventionist at the high school, math coaches, instructional supplies, supplemental PD. We have some required professional development that we must use local funds to support or other funds to support, and then we can do supplemental PD with Title III. Title III has a parent involvement project requirement as well. Title IV has these expenses listed here. I know one thing that's been in conversation, we have our district SEL coordinator who that position's moved into local, which is excellent. It's going to allow us to do additional planning for all the other pieces that fall under Title IV. So that's actually some new information. So we'll shift a little bit and look at how we can support schools using some newly freed up additional Title IV funds. So I'll wrap it up. Please reach out to me if you have any questions about the funding or the process that is in place currently in Lewiston to do this work. You'll notice that on the website, there's a link to, or just a button on the front homepage to, that will bring you to the summary, the slideshow. Actually, I need to put that up, probably give me a day or two to put that up. And the link to public comments. So if you're interested in sharing some thoughts or comments about how we're currently spending our funds, there's a Google form for that. So it's just a quick, easy Google form you can click on and have the opportunity to do that there.
Does anyone have any other questions? Ms. Ray?
This is my 4th year receiving this presentation, and as always, fantastic. Thank you for your patience with us. Seems like we forget a lot from year to year. One question I had was about in terms of public comment and just looking at equity as we do that. Is there a chance that individual applications might be able to be translated for folks if they're looking for that opportunity?
Of course. So are you asking for like a summary of how we're spending funds to be translated? We absolutely,
that
yes.
would be great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I just have one more quick question. I'm familiar with the Margaret Murphy Center and the partnership that we have with them. I'm not familiar with what we're doing with St. Dom's. Can you just explain that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Currently, St. Dom's, with their use of Title I funds, they have hired an academic interventionist to serve students during the school day. And that's taking up their entire allocation, which last year was about $17,000 for Title I for St. Dom's last year. This upcoming year, it's about $22,000, and the building principal plans to just have that interventionist be there more. That amount of funding was just like a two days a week for the school year situation. And that's been that was the first year that they did. St. Dom's in previous years had run a summer program with their title funds, but we had a lot of discussion about school day supports, and they have found that was really beneficial. So they'll be doing it again next year. Title II for St. Dom's is again, it's PD. So some of it is teacher requests around for PD that they want to just improve their instruction. So that can be anything from attending a local workshop or conference or doing a book study. With PD funds, you can purchase the books and hold the book studies and make that accessible to teachers. Those are the 3 main ways they're spending Title II. And then Title IV, they had a project last year for an after-school robotics program that didn't get off the ground due to some of the situations we were having. So we are in the middle of resetting what they're going to do for Title IV this upcoming year.
Just a piece of full disclosure, there's some language in the charter, I believe, that dates back to the 80s about supporting St. Dom's. And so we actually pay for some of the transportation and things like that through our budget as well.
And for the non-publics that we do serve, the allocation is above and beyond our Lewiston one. So it doesn't get peeled off of our Lewiston Public School, number per se. It's in addition to, we count Lewiston students that attend a non-public school. The money follows that student, like that per pupil amount.
Any other discussion? Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Agenda item number 7 is to adjourn. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Yes.
I just want to entertain it just because, as a public official, we get so few that come to these meetings and participate from the public. And when we do have somebody from the public who has something to say, I wanted to know if we would be able to entertain a few more minutes, waive the rules, whatever you got to do to reopen public session to allow someone that comes from the public to be able to say what they have to say. It's a short meeting tonight. We're going to be out anyway. So I just wonder if you'd entertain that.
So I gave her the opportunity to speak. She said that she was done and she was going to be emailing us. I think if you want to stick around and have a conversation with her, that's completely appropriate, or her emailing us. It's not the way the meeting operates that we go back and forth and handle debate with public. It's not the format. It's not what we do. I've been where she is. That's how I ended up on the school committee, was coming in as a parent and not knowing anything and coming up to the podium and being really nervous and speaking. So I completely commiserate with her and understand her perspective, but it's not the way our meetings operate. Thank you, May I say something since we're adjourned? We're not adjourned yet. We haven't voted. So Kieran made the motion. Is there a second? Ward 3.
Yes.
4?
Yeah.
Oh, that didn't work.
Yes.
5?
Yes.
6?
Yes.
7?
Yes.
City council rep?
Yes.
Yes. Ward 1?
Yes.
Ward 2?
Yes.
Yes, we are adjourned. Thank you. At 6:42 PM.